So, hi everyone. I'm going to, and then we come a little bit this way so the gloves are in the middle. Right, got to make sure they're in there. Hello everyone. We have a couple minutes before 10. So we're just gonna wait for people to join. But as always, if you have any questions, drop them in the chat. We love talking to y'all. So I know that we have a couple links that we want to share. So I'm going to be finding those really quickly so I can put them in the chat when we need them. I know it's been cold.
Oh. God, nothing like reminding me how tired you are when you're looking at me.
I know. I was like, do I look down? Do I look up?
Let's get on the fun ones.
Oh no, these ones are the exciting ones.
That's funny. That's pretty tight.
I like the these glove colors together. I think they're cute.
The yellow's tighter than the green.
Oh, interesting. Interessante. Okay, nitrile gloves make my hands. Okay. Skin log. Okay.
Hey, my papers.
Oh no.
Just trying.
Let's see. All right. 2 minutes out here, people.
I just want coffee.
Coffee, yeah.
I haven't had
Forgot my
yet.
water. If I get dry mouth, just everyone knows
Just
what's
don't start
happening.
smacking. It's like a total pet peeve of mine when somebody talks
What
to
do
me
you mean
about,
smacking?
and then I think we should do this. So we should have done it, and then you're like, I cannot listen to somebody when they're smacker.
I don't know if I should say this while we're on live, but I did rewatch one because I have to clip some of these.
Yeah.
And I realized how many times I say okay to you.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
It's just like,
Okay. I'm like, why
That's
do I
funny.
keep repeating that?
you'll only figure out your quirks once you start recording yourself.
Totally.
You're like, wow, I
was
say
like,
that.
ooh,
I
maybe
say
I
that
should.
all the time, don't I?
Maybe I should be careful that one.
Mhm. I should have got more. It just, what's in there? I don't know. Tea's so weird. I'm trying.
Are you doing tea?
Today
Not
it is.
coffee?
It's a tea.
Nice.
Mint tea.
That's good for your digestion.
That's what I've heard.
You're like, yet to believe it.
2 weeks. 2 weeks insisted. It's like a
temporary thing. You're right. This is tighter.
yeah.
Interesting.
Like here though,
Yeah.
or something. This one fits better.
Interesting. All right, we got 1 minute. We're just gonna let people join.
Start at 10.
Oh, and we're there. And I'm just gonna put this glove on, so bear with me.
Great.
Um,
Gloves ready.
Yep. Okay. Well,
Welcome to the Glove Lab.
the Glove Lab, everyone. Woohoo! So as you know, I mean, if you've seen our live streams before, and if not, that's totally fine. We're happy you're here. And our goal is to make this a casual conversation about gloves, anything really that you want to know. And it's a way to just share information. So again, just ask your questions in the chat and we will get to them. And make sure to subscribe so that you can, follow along, and we'll be doing this every month.
Yes. And let us know if there's something specific you have questions about. Gloves are really simple, but they can also be very complicated.
Yeah.
And the biggest thing is they have to work for what you're using them for. So we're hoping to answer a few questions there if we can just help make gloves simpler.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Okay.
All right. So should we start off with, who we are, I suppose. So we work for Eagle Protect. We are the world's first B Corp. That's a disposable glove and clothing company. So the majority of our business comes from the food processing industry, but our gloves are also used in law enforcement, medical, cannabis, dental,
all the
mechanics. I mean, you name it. That our gloves, our customers really range across the board, but the bulk of what we do is food processing.
Right.
So a lot of what we focus on is also contamination and trying to reduce that. So we developed a program that we use to test our own gloves. It's called Delta Zero. So when a range of our gloves come over, we lot test them. And for us, a lot is a container. So every container that comes over, we take a scientific sampling of these gloves. We send them to a third-party lab and they're tested for strength, durability, cleanliness, dermal toxicity, making sure they're not irritating your skin, just to make sure that none of the ingredients have changed. They're the high quality they should be. We just verify it for you because nobody else does, and you just have to trust the box on the shelf, and we don't think that's right. So that's who we are. I'm Sarah, and this is Ashley.
Ashley. Hi, everyone.
So we are in the marketing department. So if you ever interact with us on social media, it's probably Ashley responding to you. If you talk to us on the website, it's probably me responding to you. So try to get it across the board. Exactly.
So we like to usually ask sort of a random question. Love these topics. And when you show up in these streams. Good. I'm glad. We're happy.
With the fun ones today. We look like Skittles.
I know.
We look like Mike and Ike's or something.
Got to keep it interesting. Okay. So this one is, a bit personal, but knowing what we know about listeria risks in like raw flour and salmonella and raw eggs, do you still eat raw cookie dough?
I do. I know it's horrible. But
is it?
I know the risk is there, but man, I'm going to lick those beaters. Like when I get done making cakes, I just love it. I love it. I know it's probably bad.
I do it too. So
Don't tell. It's one of those things, but there's nothing better than just a raw chunk of cookie dough.
Okay, but second part to this question, store-bought homemade. What's
I'm not going to lie. I feel weirder about store-bought.
Okay, so you do feel there is one you feel weird.
I do feel weirder about store-bought. I'm probably still going to eat it, but I do feel weirder because I feel like there's a longer time period in there and someone else was involved. And then there's a lot of trust in there where I feel like if I'm in my kitchen, I kind of know what I was doing, what I was touching, so there is a weird when it's from the store. Correct.
Okay.
Good point.
Interesting.
Good point.
I don't think I have a concern either way, so I think we're good. Okay. Well, if anyone has any thoughts on that, leave it in the chat. We'd love to hear. So glove colors. Nowadays, companies can order a whole array of colors. It has become more popular. But the question is, should they? And what do the colors mean? Kind of what are they for? And that's what we're going to go over today.
Sure. We get asked a lot about glove colors, especially when we go to trade shows. We have our booth set up and it's like, you have the cute little gloves and they're all the colors. And for some reason, they're always drawn to some color. Be like, oh, look at the orange ones or something like that. And a lot of times people think that color glove is meant for a specific purpose. Like, oh, it's orange. It must have certain level of chemical protection or something like that, where the color actually isn't related to qualities or features of the glove themselves. It is just a color. So I can have a thick glove that's green, a thin glove that's green, a thick black glove, a thin black glove. So the color doesn't actually dictate how to use it, where to use it, or what it's protective against. It is purely just a color.
Right. So we're going to talk about 4 different ways that glove colors are used. So this is them. But if you can think of another way to use these gloves in different colors, let us know. We always want to know. So the first one is
start with the
contrast.
The color contrast.
Yes. The second one is department coding, and we'll explain that more. The third is uniform. And the fourth is visual safety cues, visual cues.
Yes, and they all sound kind of similar, and to be honest, they're all semi-related because it does have to do with the visual color of the glove, and that's why gloves are colored. But let's start off with a contrasting color.
Yeah.
So it's a very common practice that a glove contrasts the product that's being held, handled, manufactured, that kind of thing, because that way, if there was a case where the glove would rip or fail, a chunk of the glove would fall off into what I'm doing, it's more easily visually seen if it's contrasting the color of the product that is being handled.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of times in, like I said, we work with food safety a lot. So a lot of times in a line, you'll see on the processing line, they're using blue gloves, because if you kind of look in the grocery store, we don't really eat blue food. I mean, besides blueberries, and those are debatable if they're purple or blue. Yeah. So we don't really eat blue food because in nature, I think blue's the poison one and we're not supposed to eat it.
I didn't know that.
So yeah, if something's blue, you just kind of stay away from it.
Good to know.
But then the blue glove then is usually a contrasting color to that food that is being handled. So that's kind of a way that you could use a contrasting color in that way. And it just helps with the foreign material contamination in the food.
Yeah.
If I'm making a salad and I see a bright orange glove chunk in there, it's just something that I can kind of easily recognize. Mm-hmm. And with that being said, you also have to consider the work environment, not just the food or the product being handled. And this is, we have a customer that makes hamburgers. So of course it's red with beef. And they actually use our green glove on their processing line, because you think, well, blue contrasts with red, but the conveyor belt that they have that's moving the meat along as they're processing it is blue.
Right.
So if the glove would fail and get on the conveyor belt, it's not as easily recognizable. So the green glove contrasts both the environment, which is the conveyor belt, and the meat itself.
Right.
So that's something else to think about, just besides, I guess, the color of the product.
Right. And that, that makes sense. So like a mozzarella company wouldn't want to use a white glove per se.
Yeah. Not unless they're into like little chewy surprises.
And it would be so disappointing to find a chunk of something in your food, because
it'd be horrible just to find a rubber chunk.
It'd be
it's
gross.
Like gum that doesn't chew. And you're like,
Well, I mean, I think we've all had an experience where we found something that like wasn't supposed to be there, and it grosses you out. You don't want to eat the rest of your food.
Yeah, so you don't know what it is, where it came from, what it was, what touched it.
And it's really important, not only just not to gross your customers out, but also in just food safety, general terms. But speaking of ripping, so this is, it's just best to make sure that your gloves aren't ripping in the first place. And we have talked about this before. So I will be putting a link in our chat to our first live stream, which was actually all about glove ripping. So if you are curious about that, we have some more information there. So I will put that in here.
Yes, it's all about ripping, why they rip, how to have gloves not rip, which is ideal. Color coding is great, and it is a backup, but it should be secondary to making sure that you have gloves that don't rip in the first place. Right. But it still is a good food safety practice. So next up, after we got that, get our graphics here. I need to find another marker. My marker's going dead. We have our departmental coding. So talking about the departmental coding, this is a visual cue for the management or the food safety team. So if they're walking around, they can see, let's say, for instance, I know what department it is visually. Like, okay, everybody with the green. Sorry, it's backwards on the computer. Everybody with the green glove should be on my manufacturing line. Everybody on my sanitation team has black gloves on.
Right.
Somebody with black gloves should not be touching anything even close to my manufacturing line, because I can just tell by what department they're in, what their function is, by the color of their gloves. And so this is an easy way for management to kind of reduce cross-contamination. It's also a reminder for the employees. It's like, oh yeah, I'm wearing the yellow gloves today. Right. This is what I'm doing. This is what I'm touching. This is what I'm not touching. And it reduces the cross-contamination risk, which is a huge food safety risk. And a lot of different things have to be done to reduce this. But the visual color coding of gloves can really help with this. And so that is a trend that we're actually seeing kind of move through the market, and we're really excited about. We think it's a great thing to be doing. Another way would be even within the manufacturing line itself, because sanitation, yeah, they're cleaning drains, they're doing chemicals, that's pretty obvious. But within the manufacturing lines themselves, you could have somebody touching raw meat, and you want that to be like a yellow glove because there's a whole separate rules around raw meat and how to handle that properly. Right. But then there's also your allergens. Like some people can be deadly allergic to peanuts. Let's say, so if I have a line that's handling peanuts, or maybe making the product that doesn't handle peanuts, I have a color of gloves there, and then I can make sure that we're not cross-contaminating from an allergen perspective too. So there's the contamination from the microbes and the bacteria and the dirtiness. Right. But then there's also just the safety of people and what they can and can't eat, because some allergies can be very, very serious. Really serious. Yes.
Yeah. And, you know, talking about like these sort of visual cues too is, it's an easy way for managers to kind of see, I know you mentioned this, but just to see if their employees are using the proper gloves. So like you wouldn't want to buy a thick black glove for your sanitation team intending for them to use that glove. And then, you know, because they're handling harsh chemicals and whatnot, and then you see them using a thin blue glove. So you automatically know like, okay, we need to make sure that we're like following procedure here.
That's a very good point. So the gloves could be color coding as a visual of what you should be touching, but then also you know who your team is, and you want to make sure that they're protected. And if you buy a glove for their specific role, they should be using it. Right. And that's true. If you see someone cleaning the drains with that blue glove, they're not going to have as much protection as they would be if they're using that black glove. That's a good point, just for even worker safety.
Right. Okay. So our third point here, woohoo, uniform. And essentially this just means glove color being used as a uniform. This is more of a visual preference than anything else.
It is. This is, when it's part of a uniform, it's purely preference. The glove has to work and it should be the right glove, but we have some customers that buy a glove because it's the color of their logo. And I mean, if that's what matters with what you're doing, then that's fantastic. And I hope it matches perfectly. Yeah. We have a customer that France Chocolates up in Seattle. If you haven't seen them, everybody go to their Instagram account. They are freaking phenomenal, especially around Valentine's Day. They make all these fantastic little chocolates, and they like flick colors on them and put gold leaves on them. And it's just like beyond the world candy. It's fantastic. I need to try a piece of it, but I haven't been up there yet. Anyway, so they buy 2 of our gloves. In the back of the house where they're actually making the chocolates themselves, if you watch, they're using an indigo colored glove. And so this glove is a contrasting color to both the white and the white chocolate and chocolate. Yeah. Brown chocolate. Okay. So but the indigo glove will contrast with both of them. Yeah. So everything that they're making, they use those indigo gloves for production. But then out front, they have the beautiful glass cases where you can walk in and you select your chocolates and your flavors and you build your pretty little box. And out front, then they have their team wear white gloves. Because when you're getting them out of that beautiful glass case and you're getting these beautiful gold chocolates,
like the aesthetic of it.
They wear a white glove, and it's just, it looks clean, it looks fancy, and it looks good. Yeah. And that's a point where they're actually using the exact same glove, both the fine tufts, but just the color, they choose one for food safety and one is for presentation. And it works.
Which is great. I mean, I have to say, I'm going to have to stalk their Instagram again.
It's fantastic. I mean, kudos to them.
Yes.
They can do chocolate.
I mean, they're using the right gloves for food safety too. So
exactly.
Always good. All right. Well, lastly, we have visual safety cues. Yes.
So from my experience, this one kind of has, I've heard more feedback from the emergency sectors. So let's say like ambulance teams and doctors and law enforcement and things like that. It seems to be a little bit more important to them. When we work with law enforcement, corrections, prisons, things like that, they tend to like a black glove. And it is partly because they want it to be clean. They want it to just, it's part of,
maybe it is uniform.
It probably is partly uniform, but then I think they also they're not caring as much about cross-contamination and seeing what's on the glove and things like that. They have other concerns besides the cross-contamination because, I mean, what they're doing is intense and it has to be right and it has to be, it has to work.
Yeah.
But then when we get to the other side, from the like the EMS teams and the ambulance services and things like that, they prefer a blue glove. And this is because they need to see when there's blood on the gloves. And this is the visual safety cue. So if I have blood on my gloves, I'm not going to go help another victim. And then, I don't know, I think it's called cross-contaminating maybe, but I don't want to swap their blood.
Yeah.
So I'm going to put on new gloves because I can see that I have blood and fluids or whatever that can be on my gloves.
Yeah.
The other thing that they do is when they come to a scene and they're taking the vitals, a lot of times they will write the vitals of their victim on. Victim is bad. It should just be patient. sorry.
I mean, it's not their victim.
That sounded,
like maybe someone who has been victimized in some way.
Horrible. So, okay, they're patient, and they'll write the vitals on the back of the hand with a Sharpie or a pen or something like that. And if they're wearing a black glove, they wouldn't be able to see it. So they need to have the functionality of that medical glove. That's a good glove to give them the protection against the fluids and the chemicals and stuff they're working with.
Right.
But they also need a blue glove so they can have the visual safety cues, because it is something when they look at their hands or they read those numbers, it has to be the right color glove.
Right. And, so to each their own, essentially. Each industry's different.
Yes.
You have to find a glove color that works for all aspects of the job at hand. So those are our 4 trends. Here we go. Just for
going back over.
Yes. 4 trends in glove color use that we are seeing as a company. And we, again, like to wrap things up with questions. So if there are any,
we have one. Are the colored gloves just as durable as the other Eagle products? So all of our Eagle products, that is a good question. So all of our gloves are made to what we call the Eagle standard. So all of our gloves are made the exact same. We know the recipe, we know how we're making them, we know the quality protocols, we have the checks and balances, we do the audits, we make sure that there's no slave labor with their high quality ingredients.
Right.
Everything we do is made to the same standard. We have a range of our gloves that the Delta Zero program verifies, and we're going to be expanding that through our whole range of gloves. But it's just verifying that Eagle standard is working and it is making a good glove. So we do have a range of gloves. In durability wise, it does depend a little bit on thickness. They're very, very high quality, but the thickness does matter a little bit. The ones we're wearing today are a 6 mil, so they are towards the thicker end of the gloves. If you look back here, we have a range of it. The blue is a 5 mil, the white is the 2.6. So we do have a range of gloves and the colors. What we bring in is kind of dependent on what our customers are demanding at the moment. If they need a glove and they order enough quantity, we're going to bring it over and have it in inventory. But we also find that if we have kind of an assortment of colors in those sizes, companies are also able to work within the colors that we have, because they just need certain colors to differentiate certain things.
Right.
But it is most important, of course, for the glove just to work.
Right.
But so that was a really long way of saying yes.
Yes. Thank you for asking that question. I hope that answered it. We have a couple that we got prior to this live stream. So the first one that we have is and this is not necessarily just in relation to glove colors, but are glove prices going to go up? That's a hot topic right now, for sure.
It is a hot topic, especially with the current administration, and things are changing and evolving, and it seems quite rapidly. If you watch the news, there's always something new going on.
Yep.
From what we can tell, and this is February 2025. So we had tariffs. We did it. So there were tariffs that were put on from Chinese goods that started in January, and those were for Chinese medical gloves. And so we're going to see as this plays out how it goes, but we do anticipate that there is going to be demand that usually got gloves from China. They're going to switch over to where we're getting our gloves from, and that's Malaysia and Thailand. So they're going to switch over to different to try to avoid those tariffs, which is good business practice. So I understand that. But then with the flux of supply and demand, we do probably anticipate that glove prices are going to go up a bit, because if the supply from, let's say, Malaysia and Thailand is coming, that probably means that there's going to be a little bit more stress on the shipping lanes. And so if shipping goes up a little bit, the factories are busier. It's all economics, I guess. So with supply and demand, if demand, it goes higher, so does the price. So we do anticipate it to go up a bit. It does depend on, I guess it is a kind of a medical glove thing right now, and it will depend. The tariffs, though, are also I think it's 50% now, and they're supposed to double next year, so even get more.
Yeah.
So I don't know how things balance out this year, if that tariff next year is guaranteed. So there is a little bit of things in flux that we are also waiting, and we try to keep everybody updated when we hear things from our factories or get a good vibe of where we think the trends are going to go.
Right.
But I do think if you have storage space and you can buy gloves, they're not going to get cheaper this year. So if you do have the opportunity to buy some gloves and stock up, I would recommend that now, because I do think that they're going to increase a bit. I'm not sure how much.
Yeah. And I just put in the chat a link to one of our blogs that kind of goes over the nitrile glove price forecast for 2025. Again, this is with our, limited knowledge at this point in time. We're always updating, and actually I have some updates for this blog. So we will always strive to give you the most up-to-date information, and we will keep you updated. But for now, that's what we have.
Yeah, because price does matter.
Yes, it does. All right. So the next question was, nitrile gloves make my hands break out. What should I do?
First, I got to say, I absolutely feel for you. If you wear gloves all the time and your hands break out, like, how miserable.
It sucks.
And it's like, sorry, not to make your situation worse, but I'm just saying that I really feel for people in this situation. And there's kind of a few different things that could be happening here. Let's start with the most extreme. Is there actually could be an allergy. So people can have quite extreme allergies too. If you're using a latex glove, there is a protein that people can be quite allergic to, and there could be an allergic reaction. I have heard that some people say they have nitrile glove allergies, but I think sometimes if your skin reacts, you just assume it's an allergy too, instead of a sensitivity. So I don't know how exactly you would know it's the allergy unless you got tested for it.
Yeah.
But there are, I would say, the majority of the people that break out from gloves, and it's because of the materials in the gloves and the cheaper chemicals. And if they're not washing the gloves, and if the quality of their gloves, the materials and how they make the gloves are not as high, they're more likely to cause your skin to break out. If they have good materials, they're going to have better quality, and they're not going to have the cheap chemicals that can irritate your skin. And for how they make the gloves, if they're not rinsing the gloves enough to leach all the chemicals off, if they're not drying the gloves enough, all those kinds of things where in the quality of the manufacturing actually can make a difference in the gloves. So what I would recommend doing is buying a very high quality glove that is made right. Plug, we do. The Eagle gloves are made I think they're the best gloves out there. And I mean, try them and prove me wrong. I would really love that. But then since they're a higher quality glove, they're also less likely to irritate your skin. And then if you really do have allergies or skin sensitivities, we do actually have two gloves. There are 3-mil Derma 2s and our 4-mil sensitive nitriles that are made with patented low derma technology. So if I had to put it in layman's terms, it's basically a different recipe. And the recipe does not include accelerators. Accelerators are a chemical that is traditionally put into a nitrile glove, and it makes the glove stretchy. You need them. We need stretch. So accelerators are in there, but some people do react to accelerators. So in that case, these gloves are just made with a different recipe to make the nitrile stretchy in a different way, and they don't have accelerators. So if you really have super sensitivities to something like that, I would say that is the best glove on the market. But if you get a high quality glove, a lot of times that does clear it up for most people.
Yeah. And I hope that the link I put into the chat is it's our blog about skin issues. It kind of goes over what Sarah just said.
We get asked this a lot. It's actually our most read blog. So it's definitely a problem out there that people are reacting to their gloves. And I mean, low key, it's just because there's a lot of shitty gloves out there.
Yeah, and there's a lot.
And they're more likely to irritate your skin. So knowing what you're getting, I'd say, is the best place to start on that.
Yeah. So I know there is a bit of a lag, and I'm not sure how that affects people if they want to ask more questions. But just know that even if you're not asking a question on the live, if you're asking on social media or any other channel on our website, we're going to see it. So we will answer it, and we can even talk about it in our next live stream if that's helpful. So thank you again. for joining us. We have a lot of fun doing these, and we're happy to help answer questions, get more information out there. Our goal, as I said before, is to do this once a month. So we will be doing this next month.
And sustainability.
Woohoo! It's on Wednesday, March 12th. And we will talk about sustainability, including, biodegradable gloves.
Yeah.
What that
recycling,
is.
Biodegradability.
Yeah.
It's going to be all the big words, but we get asked a lot about it. So we thought we should just cover it, kind of go over what it is and answer the questions we best we can.
Yes. Yeah. So make sure you hit subscribe because, that's how you're going to stay up to date. And of course, we always share the links beforehand. So if you want to set reminders and the like. But again, thank you so much for joining us.
See you guys.
And have a great day. Yes.